on St George's Day, we welcome the ultimate patriot. It's Nigel Farage. And Nigel's debanking scandal is still rumbling on, with the Brexit baron accusing NatWest lawyers of a lack of transparency after his bank account was closed for political reasons last year. Nigel, of course, has made a subject access request to law firm Travers Smith to reveal all the information they held on him, but was told, and I can't believe this, they cannot disclose the details because of, quote, legal privilege. He told the Daily Telegraph the cover-up continues. You have to ask why. Travers Smith do not want a record of documents relating to the investigation to be made public. Given the public still own a large share in the bank, we have a right to know. What are they trying to hide? Evening, Nigel. What are they trying to hide? Tell us.
Good evening. Well, because today was the NatWest AGM, and their new chairman, Rick Haythornthwaite, said that 2023 had led to some unforeseen circumstances. You bet your life it did. So here's the form. They are about to do a public offering of shares to encourage the great to buy shares in that bank that we bailed out, a bank, by the way, that has now cost the taxpayer over £40 billion. And they want to do it against the background of their absolute dishonesty. They debanked me, they lied about it. I got the subject access request that proved the reasons why they did it. They then decided to try and cover it up through a city law firm called Travers Smith, by the way, whose emeritus chairman described Brexiteers as racists and xenophobes. So, I mean, how neutral is that? And when I then asked them for a subject access request, all I get is 139 pages of press cuttings, no personal information about what was said between NatWest and them about me, because they're claiming legal privilege. This was not a legal inquiry. They were brought in to examine the reasons for the decision. The cover-up continues. NatWest could, at the stroke of a pen, say to Travers Smith, please give him the information that he's legally entitled to. So the fight goes on. And what I'm saying is this bank is not fit for selling shares to the great British public in an offering that they continue with this dishonest policy. And no wonder the share price is down the tubes since I went public. From the moment I spoke out to the bottom, the shares fell 36%. So I tell you what, NatWest, if you want another fight with Nigel Farage, I'm ready for you.
There we go. And look, Nigel, it does make you wonder what they are trying to hide, because when you submitted that subject access request to NatWest, you uncovered a trove of, quite frankly, vile and awful comments about you, calling you an awful human being. That, I'm not going to go into them, but, it just makes you wonder why they are being so secretive. By the way, I take it you didn't get an invite to their AGM today?
No. Sadly, it was in Edinburgh. Had it been in London, I might just have showed up, and I wouldn't have been very popular or got past security. I don't think so.
It would have made good telly. You should have taken a camera down there.
Yeah, look, the point is this, Ben, this is really important. The reason I came out as being debanked was because I knew it was happening to lots of other people. We've learned in the last 48 hours that complaints to the financial ombudsman about debanking are up by 44% last year. And that's just from corporate companies, let alone individuals. There is 1 million bank accounts have been closed in this country in the last 4 years. This is a major scandal. I went public, not just for me, but on behalf of so many other people. And if you haven't got a bank account in the modern world, it's like not having electricity or water coming into your house. Without a bank account, digital world, you literally cannot survive.
Yeah, figures from the Treasury Committee show that in the last financial year alone, there was a 44% spike in complaints to the Ombudsman about debanking. The question is, Nigel, when is NatWest going to pony up and pay you your compensation?
Well, they're not very keen to do that, because if we were in America, I could make enough to, I'd literally retire on what they'd have to pay me. I have incurred, throughout this process, massive legal costs of my own. Yeah. I couldn't do this fight without dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And so I've had legal representation and help all the way through this. I hope I've uncovered the plight of many other people who've been unfairly debanked. I've got promises from government and from the Financial Conduct Authority that they would change the law and change the rules. Well, given the mess this government's in, you better hurry up, because Labour showed no sign of being vaguely interested.
Also, Nigel, I've heard you talk in recent days about concerns with AML, anti-money laundering and KYC, Know Your Customer legislation, which apparently, I didn't know this, it's all European legislation.
It started in about 1990, when I was working in the city, in the commodities markets. A whole raft of new rules came in, and we sat down with a compliance officer. I said, where's this come from? Oh, well, this is what the regulator... No. Where's this come from? Oh, it's come from the European community. Really? How interesting. It was one of the beginnings of my Eurosceptic journey. And we've now masses of this stuff. And the problem is this. The banks are so scared, if they don't check what are considered to be unusual transactions, they could face massive fines. It's easier for the banks to simply close accounts than spend the time and due diligence. So there's a massive problem here. It's bad regulation. One of my prayers for Brexit was we'd have a government with a majority, which, by the way, I helped them get in 2019, that would re-examine this and go through it and simplify it. And do you know what the Conservative Party have done? Nothing.
OK, well, look, we approached the law firm Travers Smith today, but they, of course, refused to provide a comment. Nigel, let me briefly get your thoughts on Rishi's Rwanda plan. It got through Parliament last night. He's taking a victory lap. You think it's not going to work, of course. 5 people tragically died overnight. I mean, what's going to happen with it, ultimately? Well,
I mean, this piece of law says that judges can just ignore the Human Rights Act 1998. I don't see constitutionally how that works, particularly given how the Supreme Court has ruled already. I suspect that when it comes to sending flights, you will see the biggest, most protracted legal battle in our lifetimes. And because Rishi has upped the ante, no foreign court will tell us what we can do in our country and all this sort of thing, as if he's going to ignore the ECHR. He's got that to contend with. He's got the Human Rights Act to contend with. He's got a Supreme Court with precedent to contend with. And for all these reasons, Ben, I believe now, I didn't yesterday morning, but I now believe the general election will come in late June or early July. He has to have the election out of the way before this policy completely fails. And even if it worked, and we sent 200 people to Rwanda in the first month, what use is that if they're arriving 500 a day? It isn't going to work. It's a catastrophe. Above all people, I was the one that exposed the small boats crisis 4 years ago. I went out into the channel. I predicted vast numbers would come. They're reacting to me in many, many ways. We've got a summer election coming, be in no doubt.
Yeah, Nigel, you were out in the channel before GB News even existed, so props to you. Yes. But look, why can't we do what the Aussies did, Tony Abbott in the mid-2000s, and turn the boats back? And by the way, that doesn't involve just attaching some ragtag rope to a dinghy and towing them back. They put migrants into very safe lifeboat-style vessels, sent them back to offshore processing sites or to wherever they came from. Richard Tice thinks we can do it under, I think, he's not said it specifically, but I think it's the UN Convention of Law of the Seas, Article 25, about innocent passage. You think we still would have a problem with the ECHR doing that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I had Alexander Downer on the show this evening, the former Foreign Minister of Australia, the former ambassador, indeed, to this country, and somebody who's helped the British government. But the point is this. Australia were genuinely sovereign. They weren't encumbered by this completely outdated, 3/4 of a century old European Convention on Human Rights. And that complicates things in the most extraordinary way. And the one thing the government of this country will never do is go against what the courts, especially the Supreme Court, decide. So Australia were freer to do what they did. Now, they still met with international condemnation. The EU condemned them, we condemned them, the United Nations condemned them. They just blooming did it. And after a fortnight of doing it, that's how you destroy the traffickers' model of taking money from those that want to come. This isn't going to work. It's going to be an absolute legal mess of catastrophic proportions. And if Sunak stays beyond 10 to 12 weeks from now, and there's not a general election, they will be literally sunk below the waterline. He has staked the house on stopping the boats. He goes to the country saying, I've passed the law, we will do it. He thinks they might just believe him. I sense after 14 years of failure on so many things that actually people aren't listening anymore.